Let's set up CouchDB. You can use Homebrew to install CouchDB. Open up a window with Terminal and enter the command to install it. After the installation finishes, start the service up. Alternatively, if you want to run CouchDB in a Docker container and not install this with Homebrew, run this command. Alright, now you should have a version of CouchDB running somewhere on your machine. To test this out, try sending a curl request to its port. You should see a response that looks like this, but could be slightly different depending on what version of CouchDB you are running. Now that you have this set up, let's go ahead and set up our Kitura application to handle a database. Open application.swift. Import the module you need to set up your database. Now go below where you declare cloud env and add a var called connection properties. You'll come back to this in the next video, where you'll have a challenge to connect to either your local machine or the cloud. Below this, create an instance of a client and the database. Now we're going to shift some things around to accommodate the creation of our database. Take everything inside your post_init function and move it to a separate finalize routes function, like so. You'll make use of this method shortly. Go into your new empty post_init function and add some logic to set up our client and see if a database already exists. To recap, if you can already detect a database with the name entries in CouchDB, you finalize your routes with that database, which you declare in line. If not, you'll call a new function which creates that database for you. Below the post_init function, write a new function called createNewDatabase. At this point, if you can't create the database, it's pointless to run the application, so you decide to bail if you can't establish a connection. You may also want to put some error handling here to fail more gracefully. Otherwise, if everything went smoothly, you call that same finalize routes function. Put a breakpoint inside the post_init function when you check to see if the database exists. You can see that it's checking to see if the database exists, and then moving on to establish the routes. On my machine, I already have the database existing, but for you, it should create it for the first time. Build and run your application. Nice work! You've now got a working database associated with your application, and you're going to start using it shortly. I'm going to ask you to hold off on deploying your application for now, because in the next video, I'm going to challenge you to connect to a similar database in the cloud.